Hello, 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 hello. Combing my hair without a mirror did nothing. That's because I've had to have a mask on today, and it's gone all funny and wibbly because I had an insurance guy come around to look at the roof. Wibbly. You guys didn't need to know that, guys. S's need to go places. Can you hear me? Feels like I've got the monitor too far back. Play it forward. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Loud and clear. Excellent. Yeah, you're sat next to me. You're sat next to me.
Hello, everyone.
Can you hear Crimson? You should be able to because
rude.
Because the microphone's dead good.
Okay, so I don't need to shout then.
No, very much not. Then. The microphone was the expensive thing.
Oh, they can only hear me faintly, you see. Look at that.
To be fair, I didn't check the volume on the microphone.
Leading. I love it. I like the leading lady bit.
Okie dokie. So, okay, usual format. I'm going to on about a few random things for 5 minutes or so whilst everyone gets settled in. Then I will go on to the ramble topic, which tonight is inspiration is taken from Discord, where a number of people have asked about the Traitor Primarchs. So taking some inspiration from that, I thought I would ramble on about the Traitor Primarchs and what I think motivated them. So a bit of a combination of what I've read, what I suppose. So, yeah. Okay, so what's been going on? I've been doing my Necron hobby vlog, which is fun. First episode of that went up on YouTube at the weekend, and the first members only one went up on Sunday. Just finished filming the third one today. Finished assembling my Eldar blog.
Oh, he's a superstar.
Legend Coke sponsorship.
Yay!
There's still no Diet Coke in the local Tesco, caffeine free. I'm subsisting on Pepsi again. It's a tragedy. So yes, been building Necrons and filming hobby vlogs. As I said, I've finished episode 3 today and started on episode 4. Not to be confused with Star Wars films. Doing a bit of Sector Mechanicus scenery. I've been trying to magnetize pipes today. In between various other things. What else have I been up to? Not a huge amount. Just trying to relax after finally getting to finish work for a break. So just chilling out mostly. But there have been some exciting occurrences in the last week. So this time last week in the chat, whilst I was rambling on about anything and everything that had been brought up by folks in the Discord, there was a chat going on about, I think it started off with, we all need to go around to Paul's and he needs to cook us a curry.
Yay.
You've just had one of my curries.
I have, and I'm very full, I have to say.
And it went into, well, maybe we won't all fit in Paul's house. Maybe we should all meet up somewhere together. Mr. Squark is correct. It has acquired the name Paul Fest. So to try and make the long story short, a whole bunch of the guys, Redrix, welcome to level 2. Hello. Pleasure to have you. So a bunch of the guys have got together and booked a venue to get together and throw some dice, have some games for 40k. And it's booked for the 23rd of October this year. COVID restrictions allowing. Hopefully things will all be all right by then. It's all being organised. I'm not organising it. I'm simply the what do you call it? The special guest. It's basically folks from the Discord getting together to meet up in real life and throw some dice together. So I said I would give a shout out. It's going to be at Tabletop Events in Belper, which is near Derby. And the information is all in Discord. Chapter Master Lexicus, thank you. That's Mick. So
is it?
That's Mick.
Oh,
yeah.
My Mick.
Your Mick.
My Mick.
Your Mick. Yeah. So yeah, it's Lexicus who's booked it and is coordinating it. So for members who haven't been in the Discord, get in the Discord and have a look. Or anyone who wants to attend, you just need to get access to the Discord, which can be accessed via channel memberships, and hit Chapter Master Lexicus up. I believe is the modern day vernacular to hit up. Yes. Now it's interesting that now it says Chapter Master Lexicus rather than Mick, and I think that's because I tried. Now I had to light an incense burner and pour a load of sacred oils over the computer earlier, but I think I did a thing where I managed to connect YouTube to Discord, which in theory, I think what it does is if you sign up if you sign up in YouTube, it takes you to the Discord. I think I need to wait for someone to actually do it and ask them if it worked. But what it's done is it's synchronized people's names in YouTube and Discord, which is why Mick now says Chapter Master Lexicus. And for those of you who are in the Discord, that's why your names are blue if you're level 2. It rhymes. Yeah. But yeah, Tabletop Events in Belper is the hobby centre that's run by March of War. It's well worth checking out. They do loads of really great resin cast terrain pieces like barrels and buildings, and they've just done a new angel statue, which looks really cool. So they're really good. So check them out. Other interesting stuff. I don't know why I'm holding my beard brush and waving it whilst I'm talking. Other interesting things. The Deployment Zone Instagram wars started yesterday, which it's a bit peculiar. It's the channel regulars for Deployment Zone pitted against each other in voting rounds. There started off being 16 of us, and there have been 2 rounds so far where people have gone along and voted for who they want to win. It's a hypothetical matchup between people's different armies. And so far we've had 2 rounds, and I've made it to the quarterfinal. Or is it a semi-final? There's only 4 people left. It must be a semi-final. So the semi-finalists are myself, Chewy, Liam, and Quipster. So I think Stylus puts it up tomorrow. So keep your eye out for the voting wars. I don't know who I'm going to be up against yet. There's some stiff competition there because those guys have got some serious Instagram followings. Oh, yes, they do. So just before I go into the proper ramble, anyone who wants to support me, the best ways to do that are via channel memberships, which check out the link on. Would there be a link below? There should be a link below. Or you can go to the Say Hi Paul homepage Level 1 membership gets you the access to Discord, which should do some kind of automagic thing now to link it up. And level 2 gets all the exclusive content, which is battle reports. I've started doing a vlog series. Redrix, you can't find the Discord link. Oh no, it doesn't work. Okay, Redrix, if you go to the community tab in YouTube, there should be a post in there which says, here is the Discord link. And that should work. Have a go at that and then post up if it's worked for you. Thank you for saying that. I'll poke at it with a stick tomorrow and see if there's anything else I can do. Yeah, there's also Patreon. There's super chats and super stickers on here. But yeah, anyway, but just being here and watching and participating in the ramble is awesome. So I didn't use the right holy oils. No, I didn't. Do let me know if you find that, Redrix, because I'm obviously doing something wrong, but there should be a post on the community tab that has the link in there. Okay, right, ramble time. So we have 9 Traitor Primarchs in the order in which they came to mind as I wrote them down when preparing the link earlier. So this is a combination of things I've read from various Horus Heresy books and more contemporary novelty things. Novelty.
No, Moog's in the house. Moog has arrived. Look at the chat.
Moog has arrived. Yes. Hello. Hello, Moog. The one and only level 3 Moog. So yeah, combination of things that I've read, things that I suppose, things that I'm guessing at, things that I'm interpreting. Now, I haven't read all the Horus Heresy books or all of the what's it called, all the Primarch series. So there may be some supposition that's not right. But hey, that's rambling for you. Okay, so first up, Perturabo. Good old Perturabo. Well, Perturabo has always been petulant. I wonder if the word Perturabo is derived from petulant somewhere, but he was always incredibly bitter. I think this was in Age of Exterminatus where they first really started to flesh him out. He was, in many ways, quite an unrecognized genius. He had a unique command of mazes and structures and the way battlefields flow. It was a bit of in many ways, he's a tactical genius, and all he was ever asked to do by his father was, from his perspective, grub around in the mud, dig trenches, hurl men at barricades. If ever there was a complex tactical he was never called. He was never called if battlefield tactics and superior skill was involved. Perturbed, feeling anxiety, concerned, unsettled. Yeah, maybe Perturabo. Oh. Tom, coincidentally currently painting Iron Warriors. Excellent. So yes, and that made him incredibly bitter. And all he wanted to do, he would look at sort of Guilliman and Dawn and Horus, all the ones who had their talent as generals utilized, he would look at them incredibly envious and jealously. He felt looked over. And if I remember rightly, the main he knew that would always be the case with Horus, but Horus promised that he wouldn't judge him, and that was I mean, as Moog is pointing out, where is it? Anxiety, concern, unsettled. He always felt harshly done to and judged by his father. So that was why he chose Horus. Horus promised he felt that there was no real difference between the two. He would always be overlooked, always be told to grub around in the dirt and tear down walls. But Horus didn't judge him for what he did to Olympia. It's Perturabo. Now, Konrad Curze, one of my personal favorites. What a psychopath. So Konrad, he grew up as a gutter snipe in Nostromo, where it was literally kill or be killed. In which book is it? I can't remember which book it is when he's thinking back. They're literally surviving. I think it was him and his. It was either his brother or another child of a similar age. I inferred that they were sort of 8 or 9 years old, maybe a little younger, and they were literally fighting and killing and eating other children of their own age in order to survive. And he became utterly inured to horror at a young age. And the only way the gangs of Perturabo, the gangs of Nostromo, would prosper is by being more horrible than the neighboring ones. So horror and atrocity became his playground. The upper caste, the upper caste society treated the lower castes like cattle, like property. Not so much in that they were slaves, but they treated them as entirely inhuman. And when he started to rebel, he wanted to visit that horror back upon them. So he became more horrific than they. So he would, I mean, I'm not going to go into a lot of the graphic detail that the books do, because we're on YouTube and this goes through some kind of filter that processes it and goes, we can't put adverts on this. He's saying horrible stuff. But he did some pretty horrible things, and involving lampposts and knives and rope and moving up. Moving up. No, you could have had a little bit of colour to it. Red, the colour.
Crimson.
And the way of war that he grew up with was to ensure security, to ensure success, to ensure that no more conflict would follow, by being so horrific that no one would consider rising up again. The way he managed to bring the crime rate in Nostromo under control was by making an example of criminals, a horrific example that made people go, do you know what? I'm going nowhere near that. Which is why, in the end, he ended up destroying Nostromo, because as soon as he stepped away from it, they reverted back to their old ways. And all the Legion recruits he was getting were murderers. Not people who wanted to fight, but just deranged killers. And he felt Nostromo was poisoning the Legion, so he destroyed it. But the Night Lords would always be the Legion that were sent into the worst.
Teutonic Knight, my goodness.
Oh my god. Teutonic Knight, wow. I mean, that is major. Thank you so much. Ave Dominus Nox. Wow. I'm kind of speechless. Thank you so much.
Oh.
So carrying on the Night Lords, he would always be called in when the situation required. I don't know what the words aren't working. Whenever a compliance was required, where the system was so barbaric, was so far gone, was so divergent from what the Imperium stood for and what they were aiming towards, that the horror of Konrad Curze and the Night Lords was used to terrify the population back into compliance. And he was used as a weapon of horror, but in theory, only against the horrible. And that's what the Emperor said to him: we will use your horror only against those who are deserving of it. And over time, whenever and wherever they were employed or deployed, the Night Lords started to face more and more censure for their way of warfare. And to the extent that even before the Horus Heresy, even before they turned, they were about, I can't remember the specifics, but they were about to be sent back to Terra and basically taken to task. I infer disappeared, like the other two legions had been disappeared. Yeah, then the heresy happened, and obviously he threw his lot in with Horus. But the thing that hurt him most, the bitterness that drove him, was his father made him that way and then punished him for it. And that's where that seed of rebellion came from, because the Emperor literally was the architect of all the Primarchs. He designed them each to be the way they were. And you made me like this, and now you're blaming me for it. And that's where his seeds of heresy and rebellion came from. And he was a little bit mad. And he was cursed by the fact that he could see his death. So a lot of other things, I can imagine that a lot of other things become massively futile in that scenario. Meaningless. Oh, I can do whatever I like. I know I'm not going to die because I know I'm going to die over here, over there, at this point. I imagine that contributed significantly in eroding his mind. But yeah, that bitterness. This is how you made me, and now you're punishing me for it. 1 minute. Pretend this is Diet Coke. Still no sponsorship because they've stopped selling it in Tesco. I'm going to have to start swigging it straight out the 2-litre bottle. I'm not getting horrible looks from over here, but I know they're being sent mentally. Yeah. Next on the list, Angron. Good old Angron. Wow, what can we say about Angron?
Sorry, hay fever. Sorry. It's my hay fever. It's making me cough. Sorry.
It's quite all right. No, Redrick, you don't need to be sending me cans of Diet Coke, because I have lots of cans of Diet Coke. It's the caffeine-free, which I drink in the evenings. I always keep a case of it here for work. I get through a lot. I also have a can bin down here as well. So Angron, where to start with Angron? Well, there's a few interesting bits here. So he was he became a slave on a world called New Syria, and he was yoked by the local nobility, and he had these pain engines referred to as the butcher's nails driven into his head. And what the butcher's nails do is they cause pain to be shot into the brain. And the only time that the pain abates is if they are being violent and killing and fighting. So the only relief anyone with the butcher's nails in their head ever got was when they were killing. And over time, that bends the will and bends the perception. Constant pain, constant nosebleeds, constant tics, as these things are shooting pain into the brain all the time. The amount of control it must have taken to not just psychotically tear everything up must have been immense. And they damaged him. He was a broken individual. And he was one of the only Primarchs not to have conquered his home world. He led a rebellion. He led a gladiator rebellion against his against the nobles on New Syria, and they all the gladiators rebelled, but they were chased out of the capital and they were hunted to the mountains, and they were preparing their last stand. Now the World Eaters, one of their big things was brotherhood and kinship. If you read some of the books like Betrayer, they know they're on a broken path, but the only thing that they know they have and they know they can rely on is their brothers. And that, not consciously, that's not something Angron has imposed upon them, but it must be something to do with his gene seed. Excuse me, because that's the relationship he had with the other gladiators. When he starts reminiscing about them, he names them all, and so with his little daggers, and then he goes through all the individuals, and they were his family, and they were chased to into the mountains and preparing to mount their last stand against their oppressors on New Syria. And the emperor turned up and said, "Come with me." And Angron said, "Nope, I'm staying here with my brothers and we're going to die together." And the emperor teleported him away. He was not, and all his brothers, his sisters were all slaughtered. And he was made to take over the Warhounds Legion, which he renamed the World Eaters. And if you listen to him talk when he reminisces, he died. As far as he was concerned, Angron died that day, and he was then made a slave again to a different master who made him fight. Now, everyone else who were still engaged in wars when the emperor met them, he joined in. He helped. He could have brought the warhounds down and smashed New Syria, and they would have all survived. But he didn't. What he chose to do was pull Angron away from it. And he always viewed the emperor as a slaver, just like the aristocracy in on New Syria, who made him fight in the gladiatorial pits for their entertainment. As far as he was concerned, he was just being made to fight by the emperor for his ends, still a slave. And the option of joining Horus and effectively having no master. Now, obviously, he would swear sort of tacit allegiance to his brothers, to his brother, but really, he was effectively allowed to run riot and do whatever he wanted. So he turned against, as far as he was concerned, his slaver of the father. Now, I know that nearly all of these stories are, and the emperor did this. There's no getting away from that. Someone referred to it in the chat as they all just have daddy issues. It's what I'm wanting to do with this ramble is draw out that some of it's just a little bit more complicated than just daddy issues. But yeah. So,
before you move on, do you want to just let Teutonic Knight and
okay, Teutonic Knight. I think also a lot of Curze's later actions, like with Vulcan, were to try and prove to everyone who was just as horrible as him, because he couldn't deal with the fact that he was a monster. Yeah, he had some serious issues. He had lucid moments and insane moments, and if you read the Debsky Bowden's Night Lord series, at times he's quite lucid, and at other times he is just a frothing lunatic. I mean, I think he made his wallpaper out of what were they? Psychers that were still alive. Yeah. We don't know who this one's from. Is this Teutonic Knight as well?
Yes, it is, yeah.
In the book Black Legion, there is a scene where a World Eater is just bashing his head into the wall over and over again because it makes the nails hurt less. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Angron also thought that the nails gave him strength. Very, very deluded. But I think it's one of those things. It was a crutch. It was something he could rely on. So even though it was destructive, he knew he could use the nails to take in combat and give him that fighting power. And he wanted his sons to have the same thing. Crazy. Immortan Joe, is that related to his supposed psychic empathy abilities, perhaps? I'm unfamiliar with Angron's supposed psychic empathy abilities. If you could pop that in the chat with the details of what they are or where I might find them, that could be quite interesting. Yeah, and the sad thing with Angron is because he was so vicious a warrior and so successful, he was only, everyone wanted to use him. His brother, his slavers, his father, his brothers, all they ever saw, and then subsequently Khorne. I think someone mentioned that in the chat. Angron. Fulgrim, the next chap on my list. Well, Fulgrim is an interesting one because before he started his slide... Oh, hang on. Before we get into Fulgrim, Immortan Joe has commented on the psychic empathy thing. When he was in the gladiatorial pits, there was a bit where a boy was suffering and Angron touched him and felt his pain and suffering. It was implied he either shared or took it away. Interesting, because the butcher's nails were they always hurt a subject when a psyker was nearby. I wonder if they had an even greater effect on Angron if they had some sort of latent psychic connection. Teutonic Night. Okay, Curze's throne room was a living carpet of still screaming faces, known as the Screaming Gallery. And it mentions that the Legion apothecaries need to water them and keep them from drying out. Yeah, that's the kind of nutter that Konrad was. Although after he destroyed Nostromo, he insisted on being called the Night Haunter, and that it wasn't just a nickname. It was that Curze is dead. I am now the Night Haunter. So Fulgrim, before Fulgrim ever turns, he rather unfortunately finds himself being possessed by a Keeper of Secrets. He one of the compliances that they were involved in. Oh man, Tom, thank you very much. I am within, I am without. Enjoy the replay. Fulgrim. Yes, one of the compliances the Emperor's children were involved in was the compliance of the Lair Temple. It was a Xenos race, and they, when the way it's all described in the book Fulgrim, they were obviously Slaanesh worshippers, and as the role players amongst you will know, if you're in an evil temple and there's a sword in an altar, you leave the sword alone. Well, Fulgrim didn't leave the sword alone. He picked the sword out. Well, this is a nice sword, this. But what had actually happened was, the point of doing that, the Keeper of Secrets, the greatest demon of Slaanesh that had been bound in the sword, entered him and started to take subtle control of his brain. He didn't possess him outright from the start, but he started whispering about perfection and sensation, and just started that subtle drip to alter his perception on the world. And as with any Slaanesh worshipper, he started to find that sensations just didn't do anything for him anymore. The world was vibrant and bright, but all of a sudden the colours fade, and then it needs something more vibrant and more bright or more cacophonic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Google.
Like a cacophony, cacophonetic. To actually stimulate, and it started to it led to jealousy and feelings of entitlement and grandeur. So when he agreed eventually to serve Horus, he only did so on the condition that Horus gave him the anatheme, which was used to bring Horus low, which we'll get onto when we talk about Horus. Always next, when we talk about Horus. And so from his perspective, he would always have control because he would have the weapon that could slay Horus. So if Horus didn't do what he wanted, he'd have him. Not quite how it turned out. And the demon whispering at him distorted his perception, distorted his view of the world, it blew everything up out of all proportion. To the extent that Fulgrim found himself having joined Horus, fighting on Medusa 5, facing off against his brother and his closest friend, Ferrus Magnus. And spoiler alert, kills him, lops his head off. And the guilt, the realization just hit him like a truck. And the demon whispered to him that he can make it all go away. All he had to do was say yes. And in that moment of weakness, he said yes. And at which point the Keeper of Secrets took control of him and pushed Fulgrim's personality to the back of his mind. And he was forced to endure the perpetual torment of being able to, having to watch what this demon was doing to his brothers and his sons as an impotent passenger. Now, as it turns out, he managed to get control over the demon at a later date, a number of years later, and by that point, demon or no demon, he had been unutterably corrupted towards Slaanesh. But it's all about those sorry, I just read Immortan Joe's comment. Oh wow, man, Luke Vickery, thank you very much. Never change, Paul. Never. Your enthusiasm for the hobby makes me want to get back onto the plastic crack. Well, awesome. And also, sorry. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks, man. But yes, so the sword, even though the demon was driven out of his mind, it had tainted him. So Fulgrim is one of the stories where he didn't necessarily make the choice, but was easily warped and manipulated by those around him. Speaking of which, Horus Lupercal. Horus Lupercal. Well, the first thing... Well, obviously, Horus was made War Master by the Emperor, and the Emperor retreated back to Terra to carry on his great work, which he wouldn't actually tell Horus what it was. And that made him feel like he was untrusted. And even in the early days of Horus running the Great Crusade, he really felt the pressure when he found himself in situations where people were dying around him that he felt didn't need to die. He was just sort of screaming, "Why, Father? Why did you do this to me?" And those were the seeds that the infamous isn't the right word. Is infamous the right word? No, it's a word. It's a bit like infamous, but it's not.
I'm just advising on medication to one of my nurses. Just carry on. Sorry.
She's doing actual work.
One of my nurses is struggling, so I'm just sorry.
Oh, all right.
In a minute.
All right then. Inadequate. No.
I didn't mean me.
No. Immortan John would not be that rude. All right, we're going to have to go with infamous. The infamous Erebus. The first traitors were the word bearers, and the first traitor Primarch was Lorgar. We'll come on to Lorgar. And he sent his chief disciple to basically whisper in Horus's ear, and he spent years just with subtle messages, very, very similar in style to Insidious. Thank you. Boom. Drops the mic. Or drops the pen near the mic, and it made a lot more noise than I was expecting. Very similar to fans of Star Wars, to how Palpatine corrupted Anakin. Wasn't anything sort of specific and, uber nasty, but just by portraying the bad in a particular situation, just dwelling on the negative, calling to his attention what he didn't know, what he hadn't been told, what help he wasn't getting, the demands on him started to build up the pressure and started to, again, warp his perceptions. But then what Erebus did was he wanted the only way he could corrupt Horus was effectively to get him inside a Chaos Temple. So he contrived to acquire a weapon called the Anatheme, which could lay low even a Primarch. And without going into the entire story, because there's 2 books of this, manages to Horus is struck down by a third party using the Anatheme, and he falls incredibly ill, and he is on death's door, and his captains do not know what to do, and Erebus manages to persuade them to take him to the healing temple, even though the imperial truth says that is absolute nonsense. But he persuades them that, okay, we've tried everything else. What's the harm? And so he gets Horus into this temple. And whilst he is in his fever vision, he projects himself into his dreams and appears as a beloved son, Sejanus, to persuade him that his father is on Terra seeking ascension to godhood, and that he is using the Primarchs and will leave them behind and discard them. And in his weakened state, with a little bit of a sort of good demon, bad demon, good angel. There was an angel there trying to talk to him. But I'll come to that. We'll talk about Magnus the Red. But yeah, the message took, and Horus had to decide whether to stay loyal to his father or whether he believed this message. And in the end, he believed it. And I see that very much as a moment. Walls go down, chaos floods in, and from that point onwards, he was damned. He believed that the Emperor was going to leave them behind, and the only logical course of action, therefore, was to dethrone him. And so began the slippery slope to damnation and betrayal and fratricide and patricide and all the other asides. Horus Lupercal, the best of us, laid low. There's a quote where it says, his bearing was so noble that given what was to follow afterwards, it would seem impossible that he was ever this noble creature. One moment. Technically, it was attempted patricide. It wasn't. Did he actually commit fratricide? Yes, he killed Sanguinius. It's debatable whether the Emperor is actually alive or dead or not. But that's another tunnel. There's a whole series of rambles down that there tunnel. I want to leave that one alone. So, stop it, Moog. Or don't, you know, but I'm not paying attention. So, Magnus the Red. Magnus the Red. Where to start with Magnus the Red? His legion was he didn't realize it, but his legion was tainted by Tzeentch from a very he was manipulated by Tzeentch from very, very early on. His legion was stricken by the thing called the Flesh Change, which was basically members of the legion would become Chaos Spawn. They would just mutate and die, or have to be put down. And the legion was devolving, and he made a pact with the entities of the warp to save his legion, to make it so that they would never suffer this flesh change again. And the price he gave them was his eye, which is why he was a Cyclops. He gave up his eye to the entities of the warp, aka Tzeentch, so that his legion would be spared the degeneration. And that was just Tzeentch's long-term plan. It was just Tzeentch's long-term plan. And Magnus existed for many, many years, believing he had mastery over the warp, but it was all a con. But that mastery that he did have gave him the hubris and the arrogance that it produced in him. He didn't even consider that what he was doing would be wrong, that he couldn't control it. He became so arrogant that he believed he knew better than the Emperor. And when the Emperor said, no, really, you're going to have to stop using sorcery now, because I'm not telling you why. I mean, any story where you're starting from a known position and then you're retconning all the prequel stuff, you're going to get bits where you go, really? He said that? Really? Well, yeah. In the narrative, he said that, really. And I'm not going to tell you why, but just stop it. And Magnus thought he knew best. So, yeah, we're not stopping this. No. We have control over this. It isn't magic. It isn't. These aren't gods that we're fighting. It's primordial power that can be learned and tamed. How wrong he was. And he discovered that, this one is I'll read it out and then not answer it. Paul, do you think the two missing Primarchs fell to Chow? Or possibly Chaos? We'll come back to that. That's a whole thing. Where was I? Well, I was rambling, obviously. Obs. Yes, so he went back to his legion and said, yeah, we've been told that we're not allowed to do magic anymore, but sod that. Then he learned that he learned what Erebus was trying to do to Horus, and he decided to project himself into Horus's dream state and try and save him. But all that really happened was Horus saw the hypocrisy of it. The Emperor had said, don't do this, and he was doing it a lot, and it pushed him more towards Erebus's argument. It may even have been the thing that pushed him over the edge, because he was He was not taking Erebus seriously, really, at that point. But when Magnus turned up and tried to immolate Erebus, he decried him as a hypocrite. Probably didn't help the cause. And Magnus, then realizing that Horus has turned, he decided to try the same trick and go and have a chat with the Emperor. And that didn't work out so well either. And without going into all the details, but he burst into the throne room on Terra, which destroyed a lot of stuff that the Emperor was unable to replace, and created a few issues on Terra. Won't go into that now. But the Emperor basically turned around and said, "You've gone against my wishes, my orders. We're going to bring you to heel." And so he sent the Space Wolves. He sent his executioners after them. You've gone beyond the pale. You're done, mate. And he despaired. He absolutely despaired, and he sat there and he let the Space Wolves butcher his legion. Then eventually he decided to fight and escape with some of his surviving sons, and they ended up in the warp on the planet of sorcerers. The Eye of Terror is planet of sorcerers in the Eye of Terror, I think it is. And there's an interesting bit in Betrayer where Magnus is talking to Lorgar, and Lorgar's trying to persuade him to join the crusade, join the war against the Emperor, and Magnus hasn't made up his mind. Alex, gold dust. Okay, so we will have this as a topic another time. Should there be a similar discussion about why the loyalists stayed loyal? Do you think any of the loyal Primarchs joined the right side for the wrong reason? Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Right, I'm going to put that somewhere safe because we're totally doing that one day. There we go. Stick it on some Triarch Praetorians. And Magnus didn't know which side to join. And Lorgar was like, well, what are you going to do? Because you can't go home. You've got to join us. And I think, and this may be covered in a book somewhere I haven't read, but I think Magnus just fell to despair. He knew he had been utterly used and manipulated and was not half the man that he thought he was. And I think it was despair that made him throw his lot in. Magnus the Red. So, Mortarion. Good old Mortarion. Short version, he smells. No, he
in a bad way, good way.
Well, he's the son of the plague god.
Oh, can Grace bring my coffee in? Please?
Yes, Grace can bring your coffee in, please.
Please.
Yes.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you, lovely. My niece, beautiful girl. Amazing Grace. Sorry. She's 16 and ready to mingle. If anybody's got any...
Whoa! Whoa!
Sons.
Whoa!
You're pointing at me.
I think that goes against like half the YouTube. I know you're joking, Sarah, but the magic thing that reads all the words and listens to the voices doesn't know you're joking. Mortarion. Come on, brain. So Mortarion, similar in many ways to Angron. He was mid-rebellion on his adopted home planet when the Emperor turned up. These were the bad guys were effectively Nurgle sorcerers. This is all in the Shattered Legion. No, Broken Dagger, Shattered Dagger, Broken Dagger, Splintered Dagger, something with a dagger in. And he was having difficulty getting to the big bad guy, who was effectively his adopted father, who had kept him under a cruel leash, but he had rebelled against. And the Emperor had turned up, and Mortarion basically said, I don't want your help, and I'm going to go and finish this my way with my men. And they fought basically into a toxic atmosphere, and he was failing. He was dying, and Mortarion was effectively defeated by the air, and he had his strength robbed of him. And the Emperor chose to intervene. He chose to teleport him and slay his adopted father, the bad guy. And at that point, the Emperor had saved his life. But rather than seeing this as not favor, favor's the wrong word, as a service, as a good thing, or had robbed him forever. Oh, connection is unstable. Wait while we try and reconnect. Is it?
Yeah, same for me.
Oh, we're on the same thing.
Do you want me to come off and leave it?
No, it should be all right. Can you guys... Oh, the connection warning's gone.
Yeah, I'm back on.
Yeah, so effectively, the only thing that Mortarion cared about was his revenge, and the Emperor took it from him. And he, from that point on, he hated him, and any opportunity would be taken. That seed of hatred, as soon as an alternative was offered, he took it. Right, Alpharius and Omegon, the twins. But for the sake of my sanity, I'll just refer to Alpharius because they're the same person, but they're not the same person, but they're the same person. So amongst all the Traitor Primarchs, they had a unique motivation for turning against the Emperor. They were shown by the Eldar 2 possible futures. One where Horus was victorious. One where the Emperor was victorious, but the devastation on the Imperium, everything was shattered, and it would plunge the Imperium into another dark age, where it would take thousands of years to rebuild. The imperial truth would be swept away by superstition. The other future that the Eldar showed them was where Horus was victorious. And in that future, bitterness and infighting between the surviving Primarchs was practically immediate and rife. And effectively, the heresy burnt itself out as they fought amongst themselves and killed each other. And the Imperium, when it was settled, would be better off after Horus had won, because the period of strife would be shorter and less destructive. So Alpharius and Omegon joined Horus for the Emperor. Now, obviously, that was their initial motivation, and over time, that changes. Somewhere along the line, they got warped into hating the Imperium and actually serving chaos. The metaphysics of once you start down the dark path, forever may it dominate your destiny, I'm not going to go into, but that is absolutely what motivated them, unique amongst all of them, to help Horus win, because it was the least worst thing for the Imperium of Man. Ironic, eh? And the last, but by no means least, Lorgar, the first heretic Primarch. Lorgar worshipped the Emperor. He worshipped the ground he walked on. He made a world compliant, then built it up into an adoring cathedral-style world. And the Emperor turned around and said, do you know what? I don't like that. Stop it. And he censured him for it. I am not a god. The number of times he said that to him. But Lorgar carried on. And it took him being taken to task by one of his brothers, by Rebute Gilliman, who leveled the planet of Monarchia, which was an edifice to worship of the Emperor. And the word bearers were humbled and Monarchia destroyed because the Emperor was very angry. With hindsight, maybe a message would have been better delivered in person rather than by sending Rebute. Nah. But Lorgar realized that it wasn't so much the worship of the Emperor that defined him, it was worship. He had it in him. And all he needed to do was find out what was deserving of worship. He knew he couldn't accept the fact that there wasn't something divine out there that controlled the universe. And the Emperor turned his back on him, so he set out to find out what else it was, what was there. And he discovered, and again, whole book about this, The First Heretic, great book, really enjoyed it. He discovered the Chaos Gods. He discovered the power of chaos. And they were deserving of his worship. So he worshipped them instead. Because they didn't repay his worship with scorn. They repaid it with power. What are you going to do, eh? Cake or death? Which Primarch would you like to see return? Yes. Which Chaos Primarch would you like to see return? All, please. All, please. So, going down the list. Perturabo is not dead. He's Demon Primarch. Konrad Curze is dead. However, I don't think it would take a large leap for Dan Abnett to write him back in, because you're talking about someone who could see his death and see he knew why he was going to die. Maybe he could see beyond that. Maybe he could see what was going to happen. Maybe he could see his resurrection, and he had to die in order to later be the embodiment of X. Angron, yeah, obs. Fulgrim, ditto. Horus, well, Horus, Abaddon is Horus. I am of the opinion that the reason that Abaddon bears the mark of Chaos Ascendant, all four marks the Chaos Gods, is because he will be the embodiment of Horus reborn if he isn't already. He's the vessel waiting for the return of Horus. It's one way they could go. Magnus, we've already got Magnus and Mortarion. Alpharius, well, one of them is meant to be dead, but if anyone can fake his own death, it's him. And Lorgar, yeah, I'd love to see Lorgar. I mean, I'm a massive Word Bearers fan. I'd love to see Lorgar. I didn't say Abaddon would like it. The sacrificial vessel rarely likes it. The lion isn't a traitor, isn't a Chaos Primarch. The lion was a loyal Primarch, a shady loyal Primarch, even though he had some traitor sons who survived. But we'll cover the lion in another one. Oh, I think we're on to... I think we've segued into post-it time.
I just thought while you were talking about it.
Yeah, no. It's good. Would it be awful for me to just please ask for Sanguinius back? My angel heart bleeds for him. Now, I think Sanguinius is an interesting one. I think they could... The Sanguinor is an interesting phenomenon, which I don't know if they have actually said what the Sanguinor actually is, but the Sanguinor could easily be the spirit of Sanguinius. And where there's his spirit, there's a segue to get him back. I also think that, and this probably isn't what you want to hear, I think there is a potential story arc where Sanguinius is brought back by chaos. And obviously that would cause a fracture in the Blood Angels, but I think that spirit could be returned. Imagine Demon Sanguinius. Just saying. But yeah, with the Sanguinor there's definitely a route. I'm surprised they haven't done. I'm surprised we haven't had more Primarchs back, because GW like printing money. And it's like printing money. So I'm surprised we haven't done more of them, to be honest. I can't think of any one Primarch that they couldn't find a way of writing back in with a decent narrative. I mean, what's his name? Ferrus Manus is meant to still be a living head somewhere. Put it in Dreadnought, Primarch Dreadnought, size of a knight. Sorry, Reddix, you asked for my opinion. It could go either way. I know you spelled heretic wrong. I knew what you meant. What's your take on if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device? I know a lot of it is jokes, but I found it a refreshing look at the 40k universe, certainly before 8th Ed came out. Well, do you know what? That's what the Emperor's Tarot is supposed to be. Obviously, it's not a text-to-speech device, but supposedly reading the Emperor's Tarot is divining his will. They could do something more with that. See, I would be in favour of them moving the narrative on a bit with the Emperor and making him more of a god and less of a corpse. Don't know if they'd ever do that. All right, so going back to Lexicus's question earlier, do you think the 2 missing Primarchs fell to chaos? I don't know. The only reference I can remember is in the first Heretic. I think it's in the first Heretic, when Magnus and Lorgar are talking about what I think Magnus is warning Lorgar about being killed off, and there's some reference to Guilliman, and he says something like, "Do you honestly think he killed them all? How do you think his legion got so large so quickly?" It's the only reference I'm aware of. There may be others. Did they fall to chaos? That possibly fall to chaos. Possibly there were Primarchs that weren't recovered. They've been mutated by the warp. Yeah. From Tom, it's all about father and son. Where are the women? All gun nuns. Well, the father and son things, it's a genetic thing rather than a biological thing. It's this person has and inherits his gene seed. Oh, there's too many jokes there. I'm not going there. The creation of a space marine doesn't involve any women, hence no women. I hope they do some good Sisters of Battle, some good Adeptus Sororitas narrative. I do. But no, not Space Marines. Right, where are we now? Done that one. What else we got?
Okay. It's a question.
It's a question. Isn't there a moment in the board is set about the other Primarchs? The board is set. I don't know. I haven't read that. No, don't know. Sorry. How are we doing? Is that a stack though?
This is the end stack.
That's the end stack.
That's the end stack. No, but there's not many questions tonight.
No, well,
lots of statements, but not many questions.
Not many questions, indeed, indeed. Well, we are. Wow, an hour and 20. I think we are heading towards the wrap up. I think we should go towards the end stack. Was there a particular order for these? Okay, welcome, Reddix. Woohoo! Did you get set up on Discord, Reddix? I don't know if you managed to get. Can't really see from being here. What question would you like to be asked? I'd like someone else to ask me if I want any toast. Hopefully Reddix will reply in a minute. Hopefully he is. All right, big thank yous to.
Yeah.
You sorted. Excellent. Good. Big thank yous to Eldar Blog, Mick, Teutonic Knight, Tom, and Luke. Thank you all. No, I don't want any toast. I don't want no buns, baps, baguettes, or bagels. No croissants, no crumpets, no pancakes, no potato cakes, and no hot cross buns. And definitely no smegging flapjacks. So you're a waffle man. Big thank you to, I'll read it again, Eldar Blog, Mick, Teutonic Knight, Tom, and Luke. Thank you so much for all your support. It is warmly appreciated. And is that the last? That's the last. Well, in which case we shall... yes, that's a British thing, Teutonic Knight. If you look up Red Dwarf, the episode is called White Hole. And if you were just looking it up on YouTube, I guess you'd look up Talkie Toaster. That'll probably get you the reference. Oh, question from before, but don't know if it was seen. Do you think any of the Traitor Primarchs would try and switch side back to loyalists if they could ever be forgiven?
That was, I did give you that one.
Did you? I can't see it.
Okay.
Don't know where it's gone. Ooh. I think Alpharius would, if they could be forgiven. Possibly Magnus. Well, the thing is, it depends on what point you ask the question, because they are now all so far gone. I don't think so. 5 years down the line, after the Siege of Terror, yeah. I reckon Magnus. I reckon Alpharius. That's what I reckon. Okay, well, with no further ado, I'm going to wrap up there. Thank you all very much for joining. Thank you for everyone who's watching, for everyone who's liked, subscribed, donated. You're all legends. And have a good week, everyone. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.